Now started now.
Yay!
Hello, everybody.
Hi guys. Pulling over a chair real quick.
Last one of the semester.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
It is the end of the semester. How are you doing? How were your juries? I hope they went well. We did not have a jury.
We
We,
didn't.
we had a presentation for a company, Tramontina. And I remember like our first episode, we were about to start that project.
Really?
Yeah.
Shoot.
Because like the second we were right in the middle of prototyping.
That
So
project was way too fast.
it was
If you ask me, everything was rushed.
everything was rushed. But were you happy with what you produced?
Hmm. Yes. I'm
Explain.
I'm happy with the concept as a starting point, but it needs further refinement. Like, the handle basically needs to be rotated 90 degrees, which is a pretty significant change, and it would require a lot of edits to the design. But
Besides you.
yeah, besides that, fundamentally, it's an okay concept, I think.
Yeah. I'm happy with mine. And I mean the review was good too, which I enjoy. Again, I kept saying like that's one of the best projects I made in this program. I can talk about it for now, alright?
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah, it sucks that we can't talk about it, because it's probably one of my better projects, for sure.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, I think that's kind of interesting, is that every time I do a project, it feels like I'm getting better. That's a nice feeling, you know?
It is. Yes. It's weird that if you are chosen because they're gonna review our project and see if they want to pursue a patent on some of them or no. And if they do, you just can't talk about it for a while.
Yeah.
So I was like, they better hire me
Yeah,
if
like,
they. That's one of the best pieces of my portfolio. I'm like, if they buy the idea, I would like for them to hire me at the same time because I was counting on it to get internship.
yeah, or like, there's a part of me that doesn't want to get picked for that so I can talk about it and put it in my portfolio and stuff,
Yes.
you know? But
Oh, they pay you. They will pay us up to what, $5,000 or
I
something?
think it was 5,000. Yeah, anywhere from 1 to 5.
Oh, please don't pay my idea for $1,000. Are you fucking? No, come on.
I don't know. Imagine if they gave you 1. You know, like what is that saying to you about your design? Right? They could have given you 5, but they're like,
Well,
no.
just 1,000. That's all it
Yeah.
deserved. Okay, we can do better than
A
that.
1,000, and you can't talk about it,
Yeah,
right?
you gotta.
That's huge.
Man, that's. I mean, what if I talk to my mom about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's still because the idea is that your mom could leak
Yeah.
details about the design to other people, and then one of those
See.
people might be a top tier designer who wants to take the idea and run.
But I was thinking like maybe that's one of the reasons because like whenever we started industrial design, we had no idea what it was. And I was always like thinking like why is there not like a lot of famous industrial designer when like a lot of them touches a lot of things that we use every day. And like I look at architecture, like they take credit for their work. But I
Yeah.
feel like maybe one of the reasons why you don't hear about industrial designer is because trade secret, NDA, and things like that. So you can make a great product, but you just cannot talk about it or like be publicly known to have made it.
Yeah. Well, I think another huge thing is just that ID people typically work on teams, and they're only around for like the front end of the project, and then after a certain point, like all the engineers take the concept and run with it, and then you're out of the picture. And so like nothing you ever really make is gonna be just you,
Yeah.
unless you're designing very particular products that you can take from start to finish by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Which, like, architects, I think the reason why they get away from it is because I think they're on the top of the pecking order, you know?
Yeah, we don't matter.
Yeah.
All designers don't
Yeah, we
matter.
don't.
But I remember a book I was reading about Apple when I was young, and it was like about how Apple worked, like as a company,
Hmm.
and like it was at the time of Steve Jobs, and
Hmm.
a lot of people think that Steve Jobs like is the one that drew the iPhone, like he dreamed about it and he came
Oh,
to his
yeah.
team and
Or, like, he drew it on a napkin or something.
yeah, right. A lot of people think that, but like Steve Jobs was just like, I guess, the leader of the team that came up with the iPhone.
Hmm.
And like a lot of people don't like, no, many people know Johnny Ive, who is like the industrial designer at Apple, and he was like almost second in command. Like Job did not ask anyone's opinion most of the time, unless it was from Johnny Ive. And Apple is famous because of their design. Like that's one of the main reasons of first they are so successful is that they made such a cool design. And like they are like even when you look at the presentation, the slides, like anything about an iPhone, they like craft it in a way that's like, oh my god, that's so well designed. And Johnny Ive was the person to whom Steve Jobs talked about the idea, and he drew the iPhone. He was like, "Well, is this what you're asking?" And Jobs was like, "Yes."
Yeah. See, that's a perfect case in point where it's like the industrial designer is not the top man.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get credit for anything.
Yeah. And then you see Steve Jobs with coming on stage with an iPhone and showing it, that people are like, "Oh my god!" And you see him on Time magazine. And Johnny Ive is pretty humble. He's a very humble man, but
Yeah.
he's literally the one that did like everything we do here to find like the product
Hmm.
and presented it. And we're like, "Well, congratulations, but you can't talk about it. You cannot say that it was you."
Can we talk shop about the podcast for a sec?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to give the listeners some context, which is it's like 9:30, 9:40-ish on Wednesday, and the podcast is supposed to release on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And I, as of 20 minutes ago, was sleeping soundly in my bed.
I can feel it
because
on your face.
yeah, because I've been up pretty much all day. Like, so the way it worked was I woke up at like 9 p.m. on Thursday.
You said Thursday. Today's
Or
Wednesday.
not Thursday. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm coming
Tuesday.
to pieces. Tuesday.
Yeah.
9 p.m. on Tuesday. And I stayed up from 9 p.m. all the way to, I think basically, what is it? Yeah, 6 p.m. today.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, I was getting kind of sleepy around 5 in the morning today. But then I got hit with a surge of productivity, and I drove out to Home Depot basically as soon as they opened at like 7 in the morning-ish and got a bunch of stuff that I needed. And then I came back to the dining hall and I got breakfast, and then I went here and I worked on my model for about 3 hours, and then I went back home and chilled for a little while. Then I came over to Chick-fil-A and then back to here.
That is insane.
and
You tell me
worked
you have
on
not
some
slept.
stuff. I mean, pretty much, no. Like, I'm on 3 hours. That's it. And when I was laying in bed and I saw that you texted me while I was sleeping and was like, hey, we need to record the podcast, there was a battle
I told you.
that I had
mean,
to wage within myself, which
Oh my
was
God.
evident in my texts to you about whether or not we were going to do this tonight.
Yeah. I was gonna stay here for a while. Okay, guys, please share the podcast. You know,
Yeah, like,
Nick-
I'm doing it for you.
he sacrificed.
Doing it for you.
He sacrificed his sleep. The
Yeah.
man has sacrificed his sleep to be here tonight.
Or like, here's the bottom line. If I didn't show up, you would have had to record a solo episode. That would have been the second one in like 3 weeks. And at a certain point, that kind of sets a precedent for me not being on the podcast, and then it's just the Kadmiel podcast,
I'm happy
right?
I'm happy you feel that way.
And I was sitting there and I was like, I'm fine with that, but you are actively sitting there inviting me to like come on. You're like, come on, man. Like, I want you to be on it. I was like, okay. Like, obviously I'm wanted here. And then I was sitting there thinking like, you know, imagine the day we get to like episode 600.
Yeah.
That's actually not that far away. Like, there's 52 weeks in a year.
Yes.
So we'll have 52 episodes in 1 year.
Yes.
And all you need to do to put that to 600 episodes is, well, you need to record like what, 12?
3, 4. So 2 years means
100,
100.
basically.
Yes. 1 year means 100. 2 years means 2 years means 100. So like 6 years.
We're so bad at math.
Yeah. It's not our job. 6 years.
God.
I can see myself.
Yeah.
See,
Right.
like I'm happy you like feel that this is also your podcast. Like to me, I'm like, I'm gonna podcast. Like, that's something I know about me. I love
Yeah.
it enough to do it once a week. Like, I some are gonna be great episodes, some are not gonna be great, but it's something I feel compelled enough to be like, I'll do it. But
No, it's 12 years. I thought it was 12 years. And I was like, yep, 12 years.
it's 12 years.
Yes. Because it's 600 divided by 50,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I can see it. Maybe it won't be the same
Yeah.
name.
But yeah, that's the thing. I figure within 12 years we'll probably get pretty good at this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And okay, cut that in half, 300 episodes by 6 years.
Or maybe we become so good at it that we can do 2 episodes.
Yeah. Or like, again, if we just have quantity,
Yeah.
maybe someone is going to listen to it.
Yeah, right.
Because
We
I don't
thought-
know a lot of podcasts with quantity like 600, or
Oh.
300.
Joe Rogan records 4
Okay.
podcasts a week for the
Wow.
past 12 years.
Okay, well, never mind.
The man
Think of that.
does that.
I don't know. I've searched up a bunch of podcasts, and usually the ones that I find are kind of short,
Yeah,
right? Or like they started and then they stopped.
yeah. I listened to the first Joe Rogan Experience podcast. It was unwatchable. It was so bad.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure he was bad at it until like 100. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like our production value is garbage.
yeah.
Right now.
And like first episodes, it was only his friends he
Yeah.
was having. But this is one thing he had that at least like he was famous for other things. Like, he's a comedian. So he was
Okay.
good at it. He was actually
Yeah.
a good comedian. So he can reach out to these comedians. So like, again, it's us going into our careers and maybe having this podcast on this side and maybe being good at what we do and bringing people we meet over to the podcast and
Yeah.
talk.
So, yeah, bottom line, I got up on 3 hours of sleep with a spring in my step because I was like, if I'm going to be in this podcast, I need to be able to die for it, basically.
I die for it. Well, you know a lot about dying for a project, don't you?
Yeah, I've died for many projects, often in vain.
Often in vain. Oh my God! Thank God.
You know that tank I 3D modeled?
Yes, that is insane. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, for those that do not follow Nicholas' his artistic work, he spent a lot of time like 3D modeling a tank just to post it on Instagram. I don't know what other project you have for it, but SolidWorks, we talked about it in a previous episode. It's a long time to invest to actually make a tank in SolidWorks.
Yeah. Well, here's what happened. I was sitting in my room I think it was Monday night. Did I post it on Tuesday? I think it was
Tuesday,
Monday.
Monday. I think
Yeah,
Monday.
I was staying in my room Monday night. It was about 9 p.m., I think. Um, and I was looking through my old drawings, and I saw this drawing I made of a little tank, right?
Yeah.
And I had been ideating that particular tank, for like about 4 or 5 years,
Jesus Christ.
just because I really liked how it looked. Like, I just loved the concept. All of its proportions, everything about it. I had sketched it like many times.
Yeah.
And like I had a bunch of the details figured out, where everything was located inside, a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to turn this 3D, or like make a model of it, right? Like I want to 3D print it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm gonna model it and print it. And so I started modeling it about 9 p.m. I did not really finish until like 6 in the morning. And I don't know what was driving me, or like what compelled me to do it then and there, when I've got like 1,000 other work projects I kind of need to do
Yes.
by the end of this week.
Yes.
You know, and like it was totally going to throw off
Yeah.
my sleep patterns even more than they already were.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I have to do this. I don't know. Like once I started going, I was like, it's not that far to finish. And
Yeah.
Time just like sped up. It was like I was going on 2 times speed, you know. And everything was just a blur, and I was modeling like the wind. And
That
before I
is-
knew it, it was done. And then I threw it in Keyshot for like 1 hour and put everything together and rendered it like 6 different ways.
6 different ways.
And then on top of that, I took the renderings and I was like, I'm going to draw myself into these. So I drew over them and made a stupid cartoon.
That is so much dedication.
I did all of it in one night.
For something, as far as we know for now, will not get you any grade or money. That's so much
Yeah,
dedication.
it gets me absolutely nothing. Like, except personal satisfaction, you know?
Uh,
No, okay, I did design it to be 3D printed, I
Okay.
think. Like, I tried my best. I've never really 3D printed much except for one thing, which was a single piece pen, you know? But I got a lot of detail out of that pen, and I was like, I'll bet you I could probably do a lot of detail on this and get away with it. So I made it into like, I think it's something like 8 separate parts. There's
okay. Yeah.
the tank treads, so there's 2 different, or not tank treads, it's more like the whole running gear assembly,
Okay.
which is
So that
basically the
was it.
wheels and the
Yeah.
tracks that go around it and everything. There's 1 and 2, left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the mud flaps, like the mud guards, that wrap around the tank treads. They're removable, so you can decide to have them or not.
Okay.
There's they're on the left and right,
Okay.
going over the tracks. Then there's the lower hull, the upper hull, the turret, and the gun mantlet / the actual cannon,
Okay.
and that's it.
Yeah,
But,
that would be a cool product. It's a cute
and
thing.
they all have little interlocking cuts and grooves to clip
Oh, like
together.
an extrude and
Yeah.
the hole to like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like literally each of the wheels has like a little axle poking out of it that fits into a hole on the side of the hull, so it should all just like click together.
What's all
basically.
the size? Is this like a small toy?
It's gonna be pretty small. I set the size for like 5 inches while I was making it,
Mm-hmm.
but when I actually print it, I think I should be able to scale that up however
Yeah.
much I want, just adjusting the overall scaling of the thing. So
There are a lot of
Yeah.
projects I want to work on during this summer because I do feel that drive. I do the same for Jape.
yes,
Like-
yes,
Dude, it came on me like yesterday when I was working. The poster was due, and I made one poster, and I sent to them like for the ID exhibition that's happening tomorrow.
yeah,
And I look at that poster, and I was like, I can't put my name under that. So I went into SolidWorks on this. Yeah, I opened the old SolidWorks Jape,
Yeah.
And I started working on it. And the same thing that you just described starting happening where
Yeah,
I
like
can
time
do,
started speeding up,
yeah.
you know?
No, but I was like, I can't do anything now. And I have so many other projects due.
Yeah.
And I started doing it. And like yesterday I left because I was like too tired. I spent all days. I rested. I came here today and I started doing it again.
Yeah.
Not today, but actually yesterday. So the day before yesterday was the day I started. And then I made another JIP essentially, and it it looks so good. I'm so happy. Like it fulfills me so much because that's what I wanted to present.
Yeah.
I was like, on that day, if I had that, that would have peop- maybe I would have been like, because like, listen, I'm not in a place where I can say I'm the best in the program. That's not true. But
Yeah.
so many people that are just more talented than me. But I'm like, if on that day I had that to present, I would have bragged so much about it. But proud of a project, like at least I'm happy because like through this program, I've done my best to do project I wanted to do. So I don't feel like a problem in going back to them and reworking it.
I mean, yeah, like I'm probably gonna end up going back and editing some of my old projects, but before we talk about that, I want you to know there's a certain amount of guilt I feel every time I'm working on anything other than work for longer than like 2 hours,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like the tank, I don't unless I apply to like a games company or something. I don't know if I can put that in my portfolio. Like what is it for?
No.
Like
It's good.
I don't
It's
know.
good.
I might put it as like a final page in the
Mhm.
portfolio, is just like a, hey, this is kind of the sort of garbage I do on the side for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it does show off a certain amount of 3D modeling skill,
Yeah.
but it's practically useless. And like the whole time I was sitting there just thinking like I could be working. Like there's this little thing in the back of my head that's saying, "Hey, why are you spending so much time on this? We have things due soon,
Yeah.
better things, more important things." And I was
Uh,
like, "Shush, I'm in the
Listen,
groove."
it's almost over.
Yeah.
What's the plan? I guess. I was also thinking like what happens like I guess to the podcast once you leave physically.
So about that, um, I was thinking I'll probably invest in a better mic
Mm-hmm.
that I can plug into my laptop so we can do this virtually. Right.
I'll buy a mic myself. I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay. 'Cause like there are some good like $30 mics you can get on
Yeah.
like Amazon. Yeah.
And that would be actually good because like now it's gonna be like you're gonna like I'm
Yeah, we'll have
excited. I'm
completely
excited
different
for
life
yeah, I'm
experiences.
excited for you because you're gonna live in kind of I'll be in the same universe, same
Yeah.
cohort, but you're gonna be living so many other experiences.
Yeah. I'm a little worried as much as I am excited, because it's like we won't have as much shared experience, and it'll be harder for us to relate information to each other, maybe, or like I think sometimes I may struggle to find things to talk about. I don't know. Maybe I won't.
Yeah.
It's just really kind of hard to foresee where this is gonna
Yeah, I agree.
go for the next year.
Eh,
For those who don't know, I was planning on taking a gap year after this semester, so we'll see how long that goes. But
what do you mean?
Well,
It's
taking a gap year is like really kind of complicated, actually, because if you don't, I think if you don't enroll in a class for like 12 months, effective immediately after the end of the semester,
you have to reapply.
yeah, it's like they forget you exist,
Wow.
and so I have to balance that a little bit, and like I have to figure out exactly what I'm gonna do once I'm out of here, right, to make the most of my time. So
So are we talking like online class from to U of H?
I would like, yeah, so there are some ID electives that I'm missing from my degree plan that I would like to get done before senior year, so I don't have to take them senior year. Like, there's a lot more than I thought.
Wow.
I went to the academic advisor, and they're like, yeah, you're missing like something like 3 to 5 electives, basically. And like,
It's crazy.
I don't know. One of them was a political science thing, and I think it's probably like 3, but yeah, one of them was political science, which is okay. No one cares about that. The other 2, I think, were ID electives. Um, and then there's like senior studio
Mm-hmm.
and maybe one other thing. See, that's the thing. Like, I don't even know off the top of my head exactly what I'm missing.
Yeah.
So I need to like sit down, figure that out, figure out which ones I can take while I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which ones I can take so I don't have to be here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then also figuring out what I want to do with internships, because I'll have a whole year to figure that out.
Yeah.
That's nice. So, but the question is like when, right? Am I shooting for being ready the tail end of this summer, or am I shooting for being ready winter, or am I shooting for being ready at the start of next summer?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So,
Wow. Well, me, I'm running out of class because I did these 2 years community college.
yeah.
And like as an international student, I have to be full time student.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, what other class can I take?
Yeah.
Like advanced design system, the oxygen concentrator class I was taking. Like, it's not in my schedule. Like I'm at a point where like I'm just looking for classes.
Have you taken the UX classes?
I will be
then?
taking it next semester if it's offered.
Yeah, I think it will be. It's really good. I took that this semester, the intro class for
Yeah.
that.
And then I would have taken every single teacher in the ID program.
Yeah, honestly, UX design kind of gave me hope because it was a lot easier than I expected, at least like fundamentally.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think it's something I could absolutely do. But one of the prerequisites for that is I need to get better at graphic design, and
Yeah.
my graphic design is just garbage, man. Like I don't know what it is. It's not very intuitive to me. And I think a lot of that maybe is just me not knowing how to use my computer software, but
Yeah.
it's a mess. Or like I don't sit around all day looking through fonts thinking, which one of these
Which
is
one?
the best
I
font?
love-
And like I don't sit around all day doing like line spacing, like how many pixels apart should each letter be in my title, you know?
I
That-
actually
like
love
to me
that.
that's kind of agonizing.
Agonizing.
just write what you mean, you know?
I love that part. That's what I love in design. I'm actually working on my like process book, and look, like I spent all day making templates.
Dude, I'm toast.
Just like
Right.
but like that's something I like. I spend a outrageous amount of time like trying to make these templates
I mean,
just because I love that part. I love like organizing things in a way that is like great to look at.
honestly, I've never sat down just to make a template. You know, I've always sat down and I'm like, okay, I have to make a process book. How are we gonna start? You know?
Yeah.
Or like, I took one of my old process books and then just butchered it for parts
Yeah.
so that I could make a new one.
You know what happened while I was making these templates?
What?
There was like an ID thing downstairs.
Yeah.
I don't even know if the event was going on. But I was working and some friends like came upstairs and they were like, yo, Kadmiel, like we were downstairs at the ID event and like there was like a lottery where there were gift cards and stuff like that, and they called your name 5 times and you were not
What?
there, so they gave the gift to someone else. And I was like I was like, how did my name was there? How did I win 5 times? Like, I was just like, and we were like, oh, there's pizza too, and I'm like, I'm gonna go take the pizza. Like, and everybody I saw at the event kept repeating that. oh my God, you lost like this gift card. They called your name 5 times. You kept on winning. I'm like, dude, I wasn't. I'm sorry. I just wasn't
Yeah.
even.
Dude, I am so on board with you for that. It's like I never know what is going on in this building. You know? I just clock in to my 9 to 5, ID studio, and as soon as that's over I go home and I either work on the studio or I chill. But like all
Yeah.
these extracurricular like Sits
Yeah.
Alpha Rho Chi,
It-
some kind of design charrette thing,
Yeah.
whatever. It's like I'm just so detached from
We're
that.
at two
I don't want
touches.
want anything to do with it because it's just extra fluff,
No, like I'm actually
cluttering
glad.
my already chaotic life.
If it wasn't for APX, I would not have it. I mean, I would only have you as a friend,
Yeah,
basically.
basically.
And like, whenever like I joined APX, like, I wasn't really on board. Like first semester, we had to kind of be like, "Hey, you coming? Hey, you coming?"
Yeah,
And I was like, "Okay, fine." And then like I was like, I'm starting to bond with these people.
yeah. Like at a certain point, you transition from I have to be with these people to I want to be with these
Yeah,
people.
right. And that's
Yeah.
the story of me getting involved with organizations. And I don't know, this semester, unless I get elected to a Stuco position again, I'm not gonna be in any leadership position, which I'm also like fine because like I have to find an internship that's kind of a requirement because I'm international student,
Yeah.
and also like I want to do my own things like this podcast and like whereas for the first time I feel like I have the power, like I came to industrial design because I have so many projects I talk to you about
Yeah.
and you talk to me about, and I was like, I'm here because I feel like this field will give me the tool to accomplish what I have in my mind right now.
Wait, are you talking about like your personal project
Yes.
that we've chatted about a
Yes.
few times? It's like
Yes.
huge, the book and
Yes.
stuff. Whoa.
Either it's the book or like product I had in mind or
I didn't know you still wanted to do that.
Oh, yes.
Like that factored into your decision making for ID.
It does because
Huh.
I'm also interested in like cinematography.
Yeah.
Not like like how I make my ad, like how much time and effort I invest into filming and stuff
Yeah.
like that's a passion too of mine.
That
I
is
ha-
so great because I'm doing it for the same reasons. Just
Yeah.
for my projects.
Like me taking pictures, but not just taking pictures, making sure like you also follow me on Instagram. I invest time and effort into making my stories interesting.
Yes.
And
you
that's
do.
not because like it's actually because I like it.
Yeah.
Like I like this thread. I like make writing things in a way that engages people and make it fun, or if I want to make fun, like I want it to be funny.
Yeah.
I actually invest time into that. And even me listening to podcasts, I love podcasting, but to a
Yes.
point where like I'm listening to podcasts I like, but I'm also like picking like rhythm and like how to talk.
Oh, like how do you make it?
Yes,
Right?
and how to say catchphrases and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that's why I came to ID because like I'm getting to a point where like with all these skills like 3D modeling, like video making, I feel like right ideas in my mind where I'm like I can make it in a way where I can show to people.
Yeah, like I can manifest this.
Yes.
Now.
And it could lead to something. And I feel like if I'm not elected to any position this semester, that's what I'll be making. Like this project that I have a paper at home that was on my wall for a while. You've been at my place, right? Like on
Yeah.
my desk, there's like all these papers and like photo pictures and stuff like that. I had this paper for a while where I wrote every single one of these projects I want to
Yeah.
realize in this lifetime. And I
Wow.
am still passionate about it. Like, it's weird when you look back at it, like how much like you see that you have changed, but also that you're essentially the same person.
Yeah.
Like the book I was talking about, like the world I was creating. It started when I was a kid. Like
More like a script, right?
Yeah.
For like what you would want to see. Figuring out the media for how your story is going to be told is really hard. But I assume you want it to be like something like an animation, if you will, where it's like a mix of visual and audio, right? Or like
I can see
maybe
it
like
into a
some kind of bizarre hybrid where it's like visual and audio sometimes, and then other times it's text, where you're just reading.
I'm interested in something new, like a way to
Yeah,
tell that story that
like
would.
a new way of storytelling that's maybe like a hybrid of some things.
Yeah, I want it to
Yeah.
be visual. I want a visual aspect to it because
Yeah, so you want sight
yeah,
involved in it, and if possible, I assume by extension you want some sound to
yeah.
that.
Like I've been thinking of ways to film things, like either it's action scenes or like I watch movies and I look at how they
Oh.
film things. Like I have my favorite list of movies where like I'm like I love the way they did what they did with
Yeah,
the
like
cameras.
I love the camera shots,
Yes,
right?
and I'm not
Yeah.
an expert at cameras. Like I have a cousin. Like he does that. He did an ad for Nike.
Okay.
He's great at it, but I can only like I. That's why I do ID. Like if I cannot do it, I want to be able to tell this vision to someone that can do it
Okay.
in a way that they understand and they can do it.
Yeah.
And like ways of like recording things that are new that I have not seen yet, and I want to
Yeah.
experience with it one day. But like for the story, when I was a kid, I used to have a lot of toys. Me and my little brother, like it was us for a while, until we had our little sister, and our parents like bought us a lot of toys. We did not have a lot of electronic
Yeah.
stuff around us, so we will build this world where like our character will actually live.
Yeah.
And for the world, essentially, was the name of a book I wrote.
Huh.
The name of this world was the name of a book.
Seriously.
Yes.
It's like a childhood thing.
Yes.
Wow.
And like some characters, like one character especially, he changed a lot, but he he's directly my Buzz Light, like you know Buzz Lightyear, right?
Yeah, Buzz
I had a
Lightyear.
figurine of him, and he's literally inspired from what this character
Oh
meant in
my
my world. Yes, yes. This is how much I've been.
great.
This is how long it has been in my mind.
Yeah, that's ancient, man.
Yes, and I started. I when I was in high school, I made comics about it. I had already started like making comics, and I found a friend that was passionate about it. Two friends, and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna expect of you like 10 pages a week," and I would do that. And
Really?
yes, until my parents were like, "We're not gonna finance that thing," and I was like, "I need to put it in a way that I can come back to it, and like it needs to
Yeah,
be
or
some."
it's like those pages, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like your skill level was like what, like middle schooler?
Yeah, middle school.
You know?
Yeah,
It's like okay, you can't do much with that. But
but it's like this.
aside from like a storyboard maybe.
Yeah, storyboard.
That's what I
But-
assume you could derive from it, but
But like there are something about like when an idea is in your mind for too long and you do not put it into something concrete, it would just torment you.
yes, yeah, yeah.
You just keep thinking about it.
See, that's happening to me. Like, that's been happening to me for like the past 3 years.
I know what you're talking
And
about.
I don't think it's going to go away.
The-
Like, I've had a lot of projects over the years, but never one that I was like, never one I felt had this much potential.
me
you
too.
know?
It has
And
potential.
never one that bothers me this much. Or like I think about it all the time. And I think about ways to make certain things within it work. And it's like, what am I doing? Like
Yeah.
I'm like daydreaming about this all the time. And it's not even like it's not real. Or like
Yeah.
I can't share it with anyone really. Like the most I have a document that's just 20 pages of like hard concepts that I want to put
Yeah.
into this. And basically anything I've sketched over the past 3 years goes into this concept. Like
Yeah.
if you look at my art account, I'd say a good 90% of what's on my art account is moving towards this project
Yes.
in some manner.
I
You
mean,
know?
you have talked about this project and it has potential. I'll be so happy if you come back from this gap year and you have put it in a manuscript or like a form that's like you can show to someone.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I started with characters, but they didn't have any personalities or any flaws or attributes that were like beneficial. It was just the visual character. And then I was like, I want to take all these random characters and make a world that they can all inhabit.
Yeah.
And so I rationalized a way to do that where all these really different characters can come together in one place and it actually kind of makes sense. And also there's a lot of potential creative freedom for me in the mechanics of the world that I'm setting up, right? Which that's another thing I wanted is I wanted to basically be able to go anywhere with the project, but still follow some rules, you know, so it's like believable and it's not like Neverland or something.
Yeah.
So I got the setting second, you know, like, and when I say setting, I started with just the general concept of the world. So like, here are the laws of the universe they abide in, basically. And like, here's a really, really vague concept for what their world is like, you know. And then after that, I kind of hit a deadlock where I was doing like some character development, like, okay, how am I going to draw these people? Sorry, you threw me off.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure it records sometime.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kept working on the world and setting
Yeah.
the rules.
Yeah, so it started with the characters, but they had no personalities or anything. Then it started with the broader world. Then I went back to the characters and started redesigning how they looked to fit better into the world that I was kind of envisioning. And then what has really helped me is figuring out some specific locations within that world. And that allowed me to do a lot more character development. And also, I've figured out what exactly I really want to say, right? And I think a lot of what this story revolves around is my mental journey that I have gone through here in university, you know.
Yeah.
And, like, that sounds like it wouldn't be a very substantial thing, but honestly, like, it's been brutal.
Yeah. No, something like when you presented that project and these characters to me, like one of the things I was most impressed with was like how much personalities this character have, and like how in like very small pages and few words I could detect like for a character like how these people like feel and do things and like the tone. Like it was so, I don't know like if why it was so easy for me to imagine them like moving and talking and kind of the vibe if I was with them.
It's probably because they're all me.
Yeah. Nothing doing not. I don't know. Like even for the feminine character, like I felt like I could be like, in a very few words, I was like, she's that type of character, or like, she's that person.
Like I say they're all me, but they're really like different parts of me, you know, or like when I have two voices in my head going back and forth about like, should I do this or should I not do this? It's those two people, you know?
Yeah.
Or stuff like that, you know? So I've only really been able to get 3 characters to a point, like a pretty developed fundamental point, you know? And like I figured out a lot of their flaws, you know, and how those ping pong off each other. Like I think one of the most enormous breakthroughs I've made is if you have a single character, you can't really develop their character fully until you have more of them. And the reason why is because like, okay, a character has a flaw, right? And in order to be compelling, they have to have an arc where they go from they have that flaw to they find a resolution for it, right?
Okay.
Or like they find a way to cope with it or something like that, you know? And the only way you can really do that is have someone speak in their life, you know? Or like someone else has to influence them or speak in their life or set events in motion that will put them through that character arc to where they come to a place of peace.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you have one character, you can't do that. It's like saying, okay, he starts out weak and then he becomes strong. But like how? You know, it's not compelling at all because he's doing it entirely by himself, and there's nothing to set him on his journey or anything. But if you have like a trifecta of characters, each one of them can have a different flaw, and as such have a different point of view, like different strengths, and basically like inform each other, right? So like that's something I never realized with character development, is that one of the most crucial things you need is just a couple of characters with a couple of flaws that can all speak into each other's lives, basically.
Dude, what you just said like opened my mind about a lot of things.
Yeah, and here's another thing. The way I did it with my characters, there's three of them. The first one and the youngest one, Augusta, she represents me before college and just entering college. And she's like my mindset and my optimism and like energy and spirit when I was entering college. The middle one, Tony, he represents me midway through college at like my darkest, lowest lows, basically. And he kind of represents like drive and endurance and like suffering and things like that. But again, like even though he represents a sort of like, I guess he's kind of like a pincushion, if you will. Like he's suffered a lot. He's gotten through it, and like he has the drive and discipline to get through it. I think discipline is gonna be a huge thing with him, or like
Yeah.
not so much discipline, but more like determination. And then the last one, and the most recent one, Kasha, she represents me coming out of college, and she's kind of still in development, but those three parts of myself are always interfacing with each other, right? Like sometimes I think about, oh man, what would I have said about this when I was younger? What would I have said about this now? And like what would me at my darkest point be saying? And that's a lot of how I'm kind of making the characters feel real, because they are real.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And like that's how they talk to each other. Like I have this dialogue within myself all the time about like how I should perceive things.
Yeah.
That's what the characters are doing.
Oh my god.
Right?
Like, yeah.
And to an even more minute degree, like Kasha represents like romantic frustration, or like romantic concerns, or like Augusta represents like, again, like energy, and so like general optimism, like putting a positive spin on things, and like the energy of youth, and but also some naivete, where it's like she doesn't really know the ways of the world yet, or like she hasn't endured any real hardship yet.
Yeah.
And then like Tony represents like, okay, you can talk a lot about the dangers of like the mental headspace.
Yeah.
And like when you're enduring suffering, what keeps you going? Things like that, right? Wow. Like I have a very particular avenues that I can go down with each of them that are crucial to their character. And I've also put that in the way they're designed as well, right?
Yeah.
Like Augusta, she's a really cutesy looking character, which again, that plays to her naive sort of alignment. Tony is a really rough looking character, or I can draw him really rough looking. And that really fits with his like combat character, sort of. And then Kasha is the same as Tony, right? And that represents someone who has been through the combat that like Tony's in, but has a newer perspective on it.
So you at the end.
That's maybe more healthy. You're right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she also has this very current flaw of, grappling with her romantic future. Right?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Wow. Like compared to you, like my story has a world that I know how it looks.
Yeah.
But like I told you, one of my problem was that I kind of have a shallow hero. like for now. But I know the world. I know the character.
Yeah.
Every character that surrounds this hero, I know it. I know every streets of the world. I created the rules of it. I wrote a 30-page book about the rules of this world.
Yeah.
Like I literally know and it's so fascinating.
Wait,
Everything fits together.
30?
Yes, like not the
Okay.
book. Like it's literally a separate
so,
book.
So you have two separate things. You
Yes.
have like basically the script
Yes.
for the story, and then
Yes.
you have the rules
Yeah.
of the world.
I have a script that's 412 pages long.
Yeah,
And I have
that's more than me, right? I don't have a script yet.
and I have a plus 30-page book of like the rules of this world, like how everything fits together so that I don't contradict myself, because it's a science fiction thing, but it cannot imagination cannot be like borderless, or like if it's like borderless, you have to say it as a rule that it's borderless, and like it has to make sense at the end. But like what you're saying, because like I was thinking of my shallow hero, and I was like, what about I take pieces of myself?
Yeah.
And this hero is gonna meet like, so basically this hero, what she is trying to accomplish is like she wants to acquire like the power of like solving people's issues. Like she has a vision of a world, of a peaceful world, or like a better world, and she has some solutions that she wants to provide, and she just wants the power to do that. And she will meet another person that is not that interested in that power, but also has another vision of this world. So this story is about two visions of this world.
Yeah.
And like two ways of coming with solution, two ways of interacting with people.
Yeah, or like that's the center point of conflict,
Yes.
right?
And
There's
like,
like two visions for how to proceed.
and that's kind of two visions that have like kind of battles in me. Like there is, I feel like the main character looks like me before I traveled.
Yeah, like you naturally want to put, like, before you're even thinking about it, just when you're like, haha, I'll draw a character, you naturally imprint a lot of who you are, how you perceive the world onto that person.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And as the project develops and as you develop as a human being, your characters start to look different.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, shoot, these were all kind of a little bit of me the whole time, right?
But like the main character is this person, and like is this person that has like I am like that in a sense, which is like the truth is the truth and what is right is what is right. And I always say like I had always put myself in that example, that if someone that was in difficulty, let's say like you have a starving kid that you must give money to, like he needs money to eat today, and you meet that kid, and like I was thinking of, for example, charities where like you make like a whole movie about like how trying to stir emotion into people into giving things, and I always find it like, I mean, I think it's good in a sense to show what's going on, but I was always like, it is right to give money to this kid. It doesn't matter if I feel like it. It doesn't matter if I cry about his story. I see the ribs of this kid. This kid is hungry. It is right to give. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. And before even I traveled, I've been in situations, I've been in leadership positions where like there is what you want to do and there is what is right.
Yes.
And I had this battle, and always I go into what is right. I'm like, this is right. I've been in situation even like this year where like I had to be like, you see a friend, for example, that does something wrong.
Yeah.
And you kind of battle in your mind about like, I love this person, but this is right to tell them this, or to make this decision, and being right will involve that our friendship might suffer.
Yeah.
But I have to do what is right. And on the spot, like again, like the person I used to be before I travel will make this decision quick. Like when it's right, and I do for it regardless. Like I don't feel anything. I will feel no pain about it. And I've looked back at it and I've seen that I've hurt a lot of people.
Huh.
Like, there has been time where I was wrong, where I wasn't right all the time.
Oh, so like recognizing that your perception of right and wrong might be
Yes,
skewed.
yes. There is now a time where I travel and I force now to, I used to live in this world where maybe everybody around me had the same opinion, but I meet other opinions.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I am wrong. Or this, like, my version of a thing is not the only solution.
Yeah.
Or like, there are just other opinions out there.
Yeah.
And that I have been wrong on some of the decision, but if I had like opened my heart and I allowed myself to feel some emotion or some pain that the other person maybe was feeling, I would have done things differently.
Yeah.
And that's actually the person that is the antagonistic person to my hero.
Huh.
Like this other person that act on emotions most of the time.
Yeah.
And like I've been now like where like when I've traveled, I've been like, oh my God, I feel like this person is wrong. But if I know they are wrong, but if someone wanted to hurt them because they think they are wrong, I would have no problem defending them, regardless.
Yeah.
Or like I meet people where I'm like, I don't think this is the best way to live your life, but I don't want to change you necessarily.
Yeah. And like again, like I think there's a recognition that forcing people to change is basically impossible, you know?
Yes.
Or like there's a certain amount of effort you can sink into helping someone, but recognizing there's a limit on that, or like sometimes you just don't have the capacity to help realistically.
Yes.
Right? Or like if at a certain point you have to say no to helping people, like again, like giving the starving kid money, if it means that to do so you're gonna die, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you're one man. You can't fix the world. The
Yes.
world is massive,
Yes.
you know. But you can try your best.
Yes.
You know, or like you have to start small, right? And just because you can't fix the world doesn't mean you can't try to start
Yes.
somewhere,
Yes.
you know.
And like the main hero wholeheartedly has this ambition and wants to fix the world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of me. And like they don't just like she's
like
not
the hero,
yes,
you know.
she's not just like I want to fix the world and I'm gonna say it. She's this disciplined person that works hard and is actually learning
Yeah.
about like wants to learn, curious about other people, and goes on this adventure to I guess like seek that power to change the world, but also like genuinely interested in training herself
Yeah.
in fixing those issues she wants to fix at the end. And like so she's kind of this discipline but also like very stoic, and at the end, at the beginning, during the story, like that's going like we kind of the story starts when like a lot of things have happened, and through when as the story goes you learn about these other things that have happened, and when two characters meets, like why do they hate each other or why do they love each other. And actually in the story my hero is already paying for some of the decisions she made to hurt people and for the
That's
sake
interesting.
for what she thought was right at the time.
Yeah. Speaking as someone who hasn't yet kind of developed my story, it's going to be interesting messing with events that happened before the actual storyline that come back to bite the characters,
Yeah.
that then affect the storyline. You know, like kind of planning a prehistory, if you will, that's going to influence the actual story that I tell.
Yes.
You know, that can be fun.
Like one
Or
of
like arranging situations that come back to bite them.
yes.
Right.
But like one of the best friend of my character in the story, they don't meet each other. They actually meet each other in the story in the middle, but they already know each other because my hero has decided to betray that character in the past, but for something greater. It actually
Okay.
did a lot of good to the world at the time. Like they were already big people. She was already doing big things before.
Yeah.
But she did it. Hey, Tolu. She did it at the time for the greater good to hurt her best friend. And this decision like had very bad consequences on the life of his best friend. And when they meet, obviously this best friend like hates and wants to kill.
Yeah.
Like, you betrayed me. Like, why did you do that? And it doesn't matter how she explain it. Like, I did it. It's for the greater good.
See,
Yeah.
that's tough,
Yeah,
right? Because it's a greater good thing, but it's a valuable character you're sacrificing at the altar of
Yes.
greater good.
It doesn't matter like how much good you did to the world. You still destroyed the
Yeah,
life
like-
of this one person.
Yeah.
And
Oh, wow, yeah.
And-
Is it like you tried to destroy my life thing, or is it you did
No, you
destroy my
did.
life? Oh, that's even
destroyed.
worse.
She destroyed the life of his character.
Wow.
And like a lot of things, bad things happen like as they meet, before they even meet. Like a lot of things have
That's
happened.
hard. And it's like, what gives you the right
Yes. Right? Like, how do you
to
do?
this to me?
And like this character has to, one of the lessons is that she kind of has to learn to say sorry first.
Ooh.
Because like in her mind, she does not understand that.
Yeah.
Why do I have to apologize when you see all the good that this decision made?
Like, I made the right choice.
Yes, I made the
know?
right choice. Like every
There's no need to apologize for that, right?
yes. I know it was bad for you, but like you have to understand that it was of a greater good, and she does not understand why this person is still mad at me.
Yeah.
And
That's tough. And, you know, I think on another level, that person who got betrayed has a character arc they can follow where they start to recognize the greater good.
yes,
Right? Like something more than themselves.
yes, and that's kind of
Which is, I imagine that would be rather difficult if things went extraordinarily bad for you
yes,
because someone said the greater good was...
more important that
Yeah,
everything.
the greater good came at the cost of your death, basically.
Like someone you gave your life for decide
Oh,
to
boy.
betray you. But not only betray you, like one of the condition and requirement for this greater good to be accomplished is that this best friend wouldn't know like why you were doing it.
Oh.
Like this person did not even understand why this happened to me. And
Oh, like how that actually brought about the greater good.
yes,
Huh.
it's just a harsh betrayal. And they dealt with it for
Yikes.
years. And when they come back, it's for vengeance. It's like,
Yeah.
I've been tormented by it, and now I want to kill you.
Huh.
And even when they explain, they still want to kill you because they have lost so much. Even after the event,
Yeah.
we have lost so much, kept losing so much because of this decision. And one side character that my main hero meets right at the beginning, I think chapter 3 of the story, is a little kid. And kind of they'll go through that journey like in the book, in the first book and even in the second book, where like she's trying to, this kid will ask her simple questions, like, why are you doing what you're doing? And she has to explain that to a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I did this thing because I believe this is the right thing. And the kid will be like, I don't think you're right. And this kid cannot explain to you because she's a kid. She does
Yeah.
not, but she's like, I feel like it's wrong. Or like you're doing it the wrong way, or it's causing pain around you. And
Yeah.
this hero has to justify herself to a kid.
Ooh,
be like-
that is hard, right? Like, that's something really fun that I want to explore more is age differences, right?
Yeah.
So, like, okay, you have, like, this, maybe you have this super jaded, like, middle-aged character. What happens when they run into a child,
Yeah.
you know? Maybe for the first time in a long time, they see a kid, just being a kid. What does that do to them, you
Yeah.
know? Or, like, okay, what happens if they meet someone way older than them that's been through even more than
Yeah.
they have, and it's like you're being naive and silly, you
Yeah.
know? Like, how do they respond to that?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, and you know, this hero has been shallow. I'm trying to like, when I've failed at least in the book I wrote so far, like to put that into evidence, like this vision of the world.
Okay.
But that's because at the time also I had not traveled yet.
Yeah.
So that was the only vision I had of the world. And when I traveled and learned all these things, I was like, oh, I feel conflicted myself now about who I used to be. And like I have to deal with these new experiences.
That's great though, because when you feel like genuine, deep conflict within yourself, that's something you can write about. That's substantial, right? And relatable to people. And like I think prior to everything I've done in university, I wouldn't have been able to make my characters as good as they are. Or like if I did anything different, I don't think I would have been able to, like, I think my story would have taken a totally different turn, you know, like what I actually want for this.
Yeah. There is also a romantic story.
Ooh.
And I failed to write it.
Ooh la la.
I actually failed in the first book to kind of translate that because I had not experienced it yet.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Yeah. I think you have to go through it to really write about it.
Yeah. And once I went through it, it kind of didn't go well because I'm still single. I was like, oh, I know these feelings now. I know how much it hurts and what you do when these things hurt you.
Yeah. But that's another thing. You don't know what it looks like when it works.
Yes, you know? I still don't know how, but again, my story kind of doesn't end well.
Yeah.
But like I did not know how to write about it because I had not experienced any like breakup or like something like that. And once I experienced it, I was like, oh, so that's what you do. That's how you feel. That's how you see the world afterward. That's how like it can poison your mind. And even when you would, that's why I was thinking like being conflicted. Even when you know it's right, it still hurts you.
Yeah.
And like this battle in your mind, like it's now I know that I've experienced it. I know how to write about it, and I'm like I have my material, but it's also like you're gonna put a piece of you in that book.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I do think that all of my characters so far, to make them real, they basically have had to be pieces of me, right? Yeah. And I think that a lot of what has motivated what their world is like and who they are as characters is an exploration of my mental space. Like, even though I think the way you're arranging your story, it's very, again, it's all, you already have a story. There's like climaxes and resolutions, and you know, it hits in story beats, and there's like a ton of climaxes. It's not just like one big arc up and one big arc down. It's like a bunch of mini ones going up and down.
A lot of events,
right? Yeah, it's huge. Right, you said it's like 400 pages, something like that. 413,
412.
412. Yeah. I think for me, the narrative I want to construct, I think, is going to be a lot less traditional, with like a defined, I guess, climax and finish. It'll be more kind of like a slice of life where it doesn't really have a particular direction. But I think what would give it meaning is basically exploring who the characters are. And I think the conversations they have is what's going to give it a lot of meaning. And also, the broader world does kind of represent a real space, because I think the broader world is an analog for Houston, basically. Okay. Right? Like that is what it is. And I realized I did that totally subconsciously. So like the world that they live in, it's like from an environmental standpoint, there's not a lot of vegetation, right? Mm-hmm. Like the tallest vegetation you really get is like grasses, and even then you rarely get like a tree or two here and there, right? I look out the window What's out here in
A
Houston?
lot of grass.
It's a
Okay.
lot of grass,
There are
right?
some
And,
trees.
yeah, there's a lot of trees, but it's a city,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of it is kind of paved over.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Within a lot of the concept art I did for the environment, I envisioned these like enormous, basically concrete monoliths. And I was like, what are those? Like, why is my subconscious projecting these bizarre, almost like, yeah, like public works projects that have no meaning? And it occurred to me, that's what Houston is to me.
Yeah.
Like, I look at all these buildings, and they're all elaborately decorated and stuff, but because all of them look glitzy and
Trap house.
elaborate and stuff, they all kind of become homogenous to me. Like, I don't even see them for that
Yeah.
anymore.
They look
right?
like Home Depot. They
Yeah,
look
like if everything is decorated with lights and adornments, nothing is decorated with lights and adornments. You don't see it.
Yep.
It all looks the same.
I mean, this
It might as well just be a big concrete monolith, right?
like this building. It's a big block.
Yeah, and if it's an enormous building, like I look out on the Houston skyline, what is that to me mentally? What does that represent to me mentally? I can't interact with that. I don't go in those buildings. I don't know what they do in there. They're just these big objects
Yes.
on the horizon.
Yes.
And I realize that's what I'm making. Like when I look at my story, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Like that is the environment. It's this really uninspiring kind of drab concrete monolith ridden savannah, you
Yes.
know? And I think that what I had basically built was my head, like my headspace. You know, the way it's not the literal objects, it's the way I perceive the objects functionally. It's the way I perceive my environment functionally, and how it became something so monotone to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think like one of the things I really want to explore with this concept is the feeling of timelessness, right? Like the whole environment is kind of a liminal space, and you know, again, I talked about not really wanting a particular story in a traditional sense where there's a defined start and finish, but more just like, again, I really want to hammer that feeling of being stuck, or like being in a place of a timeless zone, you know? And like the only thing the characters really have to measure time by is each other, you know? Because the environment around them is so stagnant.
Yeah. You know, there is one character in the story I still fail to write, and this character is defined by grief, feeling of losing loved one.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's hard.
Yes. Which is something like so far the biggest loss I've had was my grandpa,
Yeah,
but it really did not. It wasn't like
it didn't sink in.
Yes, it
right?
did not sink in as much as it did for my mom, for example.
Yeah.
But
yeah, which like okay, your mom is still around. Like
yeah,
yeah.
my parent, like I've not experienced any like grief. I mean, it's not like I'm seeking that to write the story, but it's something
Yeah.
I definitely want to understand, or like want to base this character on someone that has experienced that and kind of.
Yeah, it's hard writing for characters that aren't you, because the struggle is to make them authentic, you know, or like make their emotions and personality and responses something understandable. And if you don't understand it, you can't write about it.
I
You
think
know?
you
Or it's
can, in a
hard
sense.
to write about it. You
I
know?
think you can by informing yourself, but also like some characters are only gonna be seen for some pages, so they don't need to be deeper.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about, though, where it's like you can by informing yourself. That's understanding it
Yeah.
on some fundamental level. You know, you sought out people who you want to represent this person, and you've taken the time to try to understand their point of view.
Yeah.
You know,
Because like my story is like three, it's maybe four main character and their entourage, in a sense.
Yeah.
Going through that same event. Like sometimes they meet, sometimes they don't meet. So like the entourage of the personage, of the character, they play the role. They are
Yeah.
kind of role player. They are here to play the role. But like again, like the best friend I was talking about, he is a main character. But once they meet, he'll kind of transform into a role player. But like for the hero, I mean. But like for half of the story, he's through his own arc. And like you kind of learn about his goal and why he's trying to achieve. And once he meets the hero, and like they confront each other, and gain a resolution. It's like, okay, I want to help you accomplish your goal,
Yeah.
and I kind of believe in your vision. Although like I feel like you need to learn a lot. Which this character needs to learn a lot, and he's also plagued by ego. But there is one other character, like the leader of a country where it's taking.
Yeah.
He's kind of a version of my character, but older.
Oh.
Like someone that
Yeah, and
has.
how can you write for that, right? Because you're
I
not.
Yes,
older
I cannot.
yet.
I cannot write for it, but I can kind of imagine because I have met people that had the same vision, and how they, when they were young, and how they transformed. And I can really base that on my parents, especially kind of my mom.
Yeah.
Like when my dad met my mom, she was like, I mean, she is, but like at the time she was like very ambitious, like
Yeah.
wanna change the world, and she has had a stellar
And,
career.
like, your dad is pretty ambitious, but like,
Oh yes, he's extremely
already.
ambitious.
So
Yes, but like she actually had a stellar career. She actually did change the world in her own way. She was like the first commercial director for a big telecom company,
yeah.
the first woman in that role. She did such a great job at Microsoft that she greeted Bill Gates. And like she has had like the career that a woman at her age would dream, like, I want to change
Yeah.
the world. But there's this strange time of her life I don't understand, which is the moment where she's like, I want to be a housewife now.
Yeah.
It's still like, how did you transform? Like, what led you to that decision? Because like I see this woman that is like has this drive, and like you see even her grades, you can see it in her grade, you can see it. And I remember when I was a kid, she was working, she was traveling the world to do her things. And then there is this time where she's like, I want to live with my kids. And I'm happy doing that. And this is a part that I don't understand yet. Like,
That's good.
I know I want to have a family at some point, but right now, everything I'm talking about is what is on my mind. This is the most important thing.
I'll tell you something crucial I realized, like, I think it was like a week or two ago, about how I wanted to develop these characters. And I realized it while listening to like a philosophy podcast.
You
But-
listen to a philosophy
But
so deep.
yeah, but one thing they were saying was one of the crucial driving factors for human beings. Well, okay, there's like three phases. There's when you're in childhood, you don't really have a sense of time. And when you don't have a sense of time, you don't have a sense of death,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And like your impending end.
Yeah.
When you start to grasp a sense of time, you're able to and also again recognize like mortality. You're able to kind of recognize that like things start to go faster and faster, I guess. And you get more and more fixated on this idea that if you don't hurry, you may not be able to do what you want to do.
Yes.
You know.
Oh man, that's me.
And again, you start to look forward, plan forward. You know.
Yeah.
Everything revolves around a sense of time. If you didn't have that, death wouldn't really matter to you, right? Because it could happen now, it could happen later. Who cares? Or like if you didn't have a sense of time, you wouldn't be planning to do things in the future to like, I guess, gratify yourself then.
Yeah.
Instead of in the immediate moment.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the difference between living in the present and looking to the future.
Yes.
Right. So,
And then there is a third.
yeah. The third thing, oh shoot. Yeah, so okay, once you get a sense of death, you suddenly have a desire for making a legacy, like a lasting legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And the ways that human beings typically do that is either by constructing a family of some kind or pursuing some kind of avenue of work that will benefit the broader community. And the broader community can basically represent like humanity,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so I've been thinking about that in the context of my characters a lot, and like how they're grappling with that, or like how do they look at death, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and what does that mean to them, and how do they look? Do they have this concept of a lasting legacy that bothers them, and how do they try to pursue that, you know?
Yeah.
So, do you want me to elaborate on what that looks
Go
like
ahead.
for each of the three
Go ahead.
characters?
Go
Or-
ahead.
Okay. I think Augusta isn't really thinking about it as much
Okay.
because she is one of the younger characters,
Yeah.
but she's entering a place where she's gonna start thinking about it. So when she comes into the story, she doesn't really have a full grasp of death,
Mm-hmm.
and I think she gets time, but she hasn't reached again like hardship or death
Mm-hmm.
conceptually. But because she's young and she's ambitious, she wants to enter these spaces like what Tony is working in. Which again, Tony's like the middle me,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's very much the catalyst for all things bad happening to somebody. So Tony, I think, like one of the first establishing scenes I want to have, like Tony works in this organization called the Frontier Catalogers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a rather dangerous line of business, right? And Augusta wants to get into that really, really bad because she sees like the heroic virtues of it, right? Or she caught a glimpse of some of the heroic virtues of it. But there's a duality to that where heroic things only happen when things are going very bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to do a heroic deed is a very scary thing, you know? So I think one of the establishing conversations I want Tony and Augusta to have is Tony takes her to like a graveyard, and he just starts talking to her about all the people who are there and how
Wow.
they got there, right? And a lot of them are frontier catalogers, right? Like he is. And basically what he's doing there is he's establishing for her, this is what death looks like, you know? And like, these are the legacies that these people are leaving behind.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to be what I am, you need to start thinking about that.
Yeah.
So that's what Augusta is. I think Tony, I haven't exactly figured out.
I mean, you've kind of explained where Tony is by explaining Augusta.
I think Tony's in a place where he knows death.
Yeah.
But the problem is that's all he can fixate on. And I think that he's kind of in a place of despair, I think, because he doesn't have any concept of what his legacy is going to look like. Right? Or like he
what am I
doesn't feel
doing?
like he even has the time to think about that, you know.
Is it like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah,
like, I'm
exactly.
losing my
Yeah, there's a
friend.
certain apathy to it, and again, a certain kind of despair and hopelessness, I think.
Like, what was it
The
for?
way he pursues things. Yeah. And then Kasha, who's like in an advanced stage from where Tony is. So she was also a frontier cataloger like he was, but because of injuries she sustained, she was ejected from it forcefully.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't really want to go, but she had to. Early retirement, if you will, from that.
Yeah.
And so she's in a place of she knows what she wants, but she's not sure she can have it. So one of the things with Kasha that I think I wanted to have was, number one, I think right off the bat I wanted to set up that she couldn't have children.
Wow.
Just biologically, that's not possible for her. At least that's what all the projections say. And knowing that, she wanted to stay in the Frontier cataloger business with Tony, right? Because that gave her a shot at doing good for the world, basically, or like lasting glory, if you will. Like, so like her legacy shifted from family to, well, maybe I can achieve some kind of glory for my community, right? Or like lasting good for people in my community. Then she sustains a minor leg injury, but it's enough to basically eject her from the Frontier catalogers because she can't walk long distances anymore and she can't lift heavy loads anymore because her leg would buckle, you know. And so she's just not physically suited to the job anymore, and she's forcefully ejected. So now she's slightly crippled. She has no hope for a family. And so she starts a convenience store and is running that. But this ties in with her whole thing where it's like, okay, well, what am I good for now? Like, what do I have as a lasting legacy? What can I do that's going to go beyond the grave, really? Right? And I think the convenience store, she starts that as like a sort of holdover, where it's like, okay, I need money, and I need to be able to live. But I don't think it's what she ultimately wants, you know? And so a lot of what her arc is grappling with this idea of, I guess it's like a different kind of despair, right? Where it's like, you know, what will be my lasting legacy and how do I move forward with that, right? When I'm not sure I can do it.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah, or like, is there an alternative option?
Yeah. No, this discussion brings me like to the fact that, it helps me think about my own story. Like, I feel like this story is really about like who is right and who is wrong.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about the bad guy too. Like, when the story starts, these people that live in this country like have collectively lost their memories at the same point, so they do not know their past. And through the story, it's them like all these things are happening, and for them to understand what is happening, they have to find out what happened, what they have forgotten.
Like, who is who?
Yes.
Right.
And the bad guy is like someone that, when they forgot their memory, this person was there and was trying to hurt them and had the power to hurt them, but they did not understand. So like they overcame it. They fought and they overcame it. And now this person is on the verge of coming back. This same threat is on the verge of coming back. And they have, in order to kill it forever, they have to understand why it wants to eliminate them in the first place.
Yeah.
And through the story, they understand that essentially this bad guy is right. They must be eliminated for the kind of a greater good or something like this person is right to be mad at them. Yeah. This person is right to do that. But it's kind of like as if, like, for example, someone pulled up with a knife and said, Nicholas Mayer, this decision you have made through your life without you knowing that have caused the death of my mother. And I'm here to kill you.
Yeah.
Would you defend yourself or no?
Yeah, right? And like, when you know you deserve it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do you accept it? Or
it's
like,
kind of, you deserved it.
How much good do you have to do to deserve to live?
Yeah.
As opposed to how much bad you have to do to deserve to die.
But then when they learn that, it's like, oh, this person is right, but we cannot accept it.
Yeah.
We cannot not pull up a fight.
Yeah.
we gotta fight for it.
Oh,
and like, but also this bad guy, or like the representation of this bad guy, is like kind of a vision that you would have rooted for at the beginning, but when it goes too far, when being right goes too far, when you think you are so right that, again, it's like kind of like when you're right, it does not justify the way you say it to someone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I kind of think of this anime Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Like the main character is someone that has lost something at the beginning and has a vision of like
Not very eloquent, is he?
yes.
Yeah.
He has this vision of eliminating the threat.
Yes.
And at the beginning you are like, yes, eliminate the threat, save people, let's go.
Yeah.
And as he goes on, you keep rooting for him. As he battle, you keep going on. But as you see his final plan of eliminating the threat, you're just like, wait.
Yeah. Pump the brakes
Yes.
real quick. I don't know about this.
But like,
You know.
when I read that story, I found myself like rooting for him, and no, I'm not rooting for him.
Yeah.
But has kept on saying the same thing
Yeah, like
It is
his stance has not changed.
at all.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the ways he accomplishes it is like, oh my god, now it's like I want you to lose now. Like
Yeah.
you are kind of a bad one. But you have kept on saying your message has not changed.
I think that's another really good thing to explore is this idea of okay, so there are defined goods and defined evils, but you can take any of those goods, and if you take them a little too far, or if you start taking them and running with them in a certain direction, eventually it's going to turn into an evil, right?
Yes.
Like, good and evil are not totally separate
Yes.
on the spectrum. It's more like evil is kind of like a skewing of a good neutral.
Yes.
You know? So like you can think of it almost like a two-dimensional chart, you know, and the middle, like the very center, that's where you want to be.
Yes.
That's where things are good. But any extreme of anything starts to become evil. Like if you eat a lot, like
Yeah.
way too much, or if you glorify this idea of food, that starts to become gluttony. Or like if you're way obsessed with money and you let that dominate your life as opposed to just neutral about it, that starts to become greed.
Yeah.
And like it's every vice you can think of works on that spectrum, you
Yeah.
know? Or like any evil motivation, I think, comes from a place of, well, that is from a certain perspective good,
Yeah.
but it's totally taken askew, and it totally moves in a direction that's not natural and neutral,
Yeah.
you know? So
And at least like I was also talking about someone like that is so for now so there is a bad guy, but there is also a person in the story that's kind of the opposite of what my hero thinks.
yeah,
Her name now is Gohan, and like the other character that's opposite to her name is Luby. And Luby acts emotionally most of the time. She has a good heart.
yeah,
She has compassion. She would do anything for her friends. And it's kind of the two of them going towards the same goal.
yeah,
But like Gohan wants this goal, like get that power to like change the world and like studies to get the solutions, the right things.
yeah,
Luby kind of goes in that direction without knowing it,
yeah.
but she's not really interested in that.
And honestly, both of them are kind of wrong.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like the perfect person would be the middle ground between both of them.
Yes.
Right? But instead you have these two totally extreme people. And like I think the best bad guys or even the best good guys that have flaws are the ones who are really, really extreme in some regard.
Yeah.
But they're how they got to that place of being extreme is entirely understandable,
Yes.
right?
And as the story progresses, like they gain people. Both of them attract a lot of people, attention, allies.
Yeah.
But more like the way Gohan gets her allies, it's a lot of people that are grateful to her are people that are not her friend. Again, she acts for the greater good,
Yeah.
even if it means hurting her direct environment. So she loses a lot of people that are close to her. But a lot of people that are grateful to her are the people that like have these good consequences.
Yeah.
So it's like someone that hasn't directly saved your life. You come to them and you're just like, oh, I'm super grateful to you. And like, you don't know that this decision has come to the cost of my best friend. Gohan won't tell you that, but
Yeah.
she'll be like, I did it for the greater good. That's how she thinks. So it's like, I make my allies by, she doesn't have a direct, and she has no friends, like no direct friends. But a lot of people love her. But then you have Luby, and Luby acts for her direct environment.
Yeah.
So she would like, this is how I would describe it. She would save, if you were her friend and you were on death row for a crime you've done, that you deserve to be on death row for that.
She would try to save you.
Yes.
Yeah.
She will go ahead and save you anyway, just because of you. And she doesn't care about what other people, the people that you've hurt.
Yeah, or even if you deserve it, technically.
Yes.
Right?
And so she goes for it. So she has a strong direct.
Like, she values redemption over punishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I love that saying.
Yeah.
Gohan like definitely values punishment over redemption.
Yeah.
Like you get what you deserve.
Because it's rational law
Yeah.
versus emotional connection.
Gohan says this is right.
And like nature versus nurture, you know? Chaos versus order.
Yes. And Luby will kind of like be for the people that are oppressed, the people that didn't get a second chance. Because Gohan does not give second chances. She says this is what you deserve. And even if there is a window, a world where like, let's say for example, you're on death row.
Yeah.
But you are like, you regret tremendously what you did. You have remorse and you are just like...
Yeah, like there's the potential for redemption.
Yeah, like if you
right?
give me this second chance, I'm going to make my life like a testimony of like...
She doesn't care.
Yes, Gohan will not be able to see that in you.
Yeah.
She will just keep seeing the murderer. But Luby will be able to see that in you.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, I'm going to dash and try to save you.
That's so good, right?
But Luby has also a major flaw, which is like, sometimes she does save the wrong people.
Yes, yeah, like, you know, she can get duped.
Yes.
Right? You know, like,
But
the
also,
actual, truly evil person.
But also, like, the cost of saving one person comes at the cost of saving 1,000,000 people.
Yeah.
Ends up hurting a lot of people. But she's like, I just want to save that one person. Even if it comes at the cost of all these other people.
So, like, there's also a certain point of view where, like, one character has only foresight, you know, and the other character has no foresight at all.
Yes.
Right? Like, I only act in the present versus I only act strategically.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And the two of them, like, kind of, again, the story follows them. Sometimes they will collide, sometimes they will meet.
Yeah.
But there will be a definite time where they will meet for real.
Yeah.
But the story goes that they will just interact with each other or hear about each other. As the stories and fame grows, like you hear more about Luby, this girl, and this is how she does her thing. And this is why the people that love her, and this is why the people that hate her, hate her.
You know, I think one of the most crucial things for this kind of character development and like storytelling is recognizing these spectrums, right? Like chaos, order, good, evil. Really, good evil is just like that is the catalyst that things like chaos and order fall under, or like rational versus emotional, or again all these different spectrums. How they compute together is what creates this idea of good or evil.
Yes.
You know?
And it's about...
Like, good and evil are like words for the broader consequences of things that we perceive, you know, but...
Yes. Also, like, a major... but, like, one flaw that Gohan has is that she secretly... Like, both of them, like, say that they believe in that, but you know there is a doubt in them.
Yeah.
And the story is about them, like, learning about that.
Yeah, like that questioning of, am I wrong here?
Yes.
You know? Like, yes, I believe this is absolutely right. Like, this person deserves to be punished. but but you hear the other character screaming, "No, no, redeem them!"
Yeah.
And it's like, should they actually be redeemed?
Yeah.
Like that's another thing. Like, in order to allow for character development, the character has to question themselves,
Yeah.
right?
But this is what Gohan has a flaws. She wouldn't sacrifice herself for the greater good. She's scared.
Ooh, that's good. I like that fear thing, right?
She has no. If it meant it will be her that goes for the greater good, she
Yeah.
would find a way to not go. Because she doesn't want to die. Because she doesn't want these ambitions to be unfinished.
See, I think the best characters are like that too.
Yeah.
Like they have they have that one-dimensional aspect where like, okay, this person is always law and order, right? Sounds good. But then there's like a caveat to that where it's like, I'm law and order unless it means I'm the one getting sacrificed.
Yes.
Or like there's some character quirks in there that kind of don't add up, or the character I don't know, it makes it more three-dimensional.
And Luby definitely, as much as she has a heart, for that she has also become evil in a sense. Where like you say, like for saving one person you hurt a lot of people. She will go to that extent in a sense, and sometimes transform into something she wouldn't recognize.
Yeah, or like it's arguably better to be that kind of chaotic emotional person that tries their best to save every person they meet
Yeah.
in their immediate area, in the immediate moment. It's almost better to be her than to be the person who is perfectly lawful, but they're kind of wreaking havoc on a larger scale, I think,
Yeah.
Or like, again, I don't know, I feel like the emotional person is a lot more...
She will live a happier life.
Yeah, or like... I think that the damage she can deal, well, may not be smaller.
Yeah.
Maybe about the same.
Especially as she becomes like more powerful, or like her decision have greater consequences.
Yeah.
But like, where do you feel you fit in that regard?
Where do I fit?
Yes. Are you more Gohan or are you more Luby?
I'm more. I think I'm more on the lawful side, but
How do you determine that? I guess like
I've met some people who are more on the emotional side than me that have rubbed me the wrong way, right? Or where we totally didn't see eye to eye on something, or like they were making me feel guilty for something, and I was like, I don't need to feel guilty for this. Like, but yeah.
Definitely. But again, that's me being...
I've never met a lawful person that's particularly like rubbed me the wrong way, or who I couldn't really entirely understand.
Yeah.
I think you learn a lot about yourself by who rubs you the wrong way.
Yes.
Right.
But that's kind of me. Like, I feel like I've become more emotional. I feel like there were a lot of decision. And even when we talk about things, like, you would see, I've lost a lot of what I used to be. Like, I was talking...
same. Yeah.
Like...
That's what my whole story revolves around, is me basically becoming a completely different person. So...
like, for example, when you were having... Like, I would take an example. Like, when you're having this conversation with Pedro about world politics.
Yeah.
I feel like if you had met Kadmiel at 18 years old, he would be involved in this conversation. He will be like, yes, I understand. Like kind of see the big pictures.
Yeah.
And kind of not being like on the stage level, like kind of being a civilian in that. I feel like I will be like at that level, and I feel like I have changed more to the point where like I see kind of a smaller person, like the one person that's like just wanted to go to school or just wanted to go to the job.
Yeah, got like butchered.
Yes, and by the decision of... I guess some people are right, some people are wrong. But by this decision, this person cannot live a life.
Or like, okay, is the war a righteous war?
Yeah,
is there
right.
even such a thing as that?
Yeah.
Or like, was this the greater good to have this conflict?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, again, that's kind of a battle in me, being like, World War II was a good war. That was
Yeah.
righteous to fight that war because, like, yes, we could not allow the Nazi to win.
Yeah.
Like, and it was great
Yeah.
that the Allies
But
won.
all the miniature tragedies
Yeah,
in that conflict,
yeah,
did it really have to be that way?
yes,
Right? Was
like,
there another way?
yes, and like,
Mm.
how do you? I recently saw a movie that kind of represent Gohan, which was like on Netflix. Netflix. What's the name of it? The Imitation Game. I was talking about
Oh,
this.
I never saw that.
It's on Netflix. You should see
Mm.
that. But it's about like Enigma, this deciphering
Oh,
Enigma.
the Enigma code, yeah.
Yes, and the dude that came out with it, and like once they discovered Enigma,
Yeah.
where it's like they don't want the Nazi to know that they have deciphered Enigma.
Yeah, they cracked the code, right?
Yes, so they will make this calculation about which battle to win and which battle to
Yeah,
lose.
like, okay, we've uncovered that this English city is going to be bombed tomorrow.
Yeah,
Do we let it happen? Or do we try to stop it and risk the Nazis figuring out that we know and are cracking all of their codes? And like, okay, like there's something really tragic on the horizon, like really tragic.
Yeah.
Thousands of people are gonna die, but if we intervene, they're gonna know,
and it
and
literally.
and then we won't be able to intervene anymore. You know?
And the crazy thing is that it literally came down to a calculation, statistic. Like literally a number that if it is above that number, we intervene. And if it's under that number, we let it slide.
Oof.
And like there is one character in this story that has to accept that they're gonna lose their brother.
Oh
Because the number
no.
fell under the, the quota. Like,
Ooh.
and you have to be like the battalion where my brother
Yeah.
is getting to be trapped. He's going to be trapped tomorrow. Like you read a message where like the Nazi are setting a trap and your brother is going to fall in that trap. But if you intervene, the Nazi are gonna be like, how did they miraculously know?
See, that's another really compelling storytelling truth, or like a maxim, which is determining where exactly people draw the line on something becoming evil, right? So, like, okay, yeah, good and evil, it exists on a spectrum. Like you have someone who's starving themselves versus someone who's eating way too much, right? And good is in the center. Okay. Well, if I start moving from the center towards like gluttony, how far is too far?
I see what you mean.
Right?
200
Because
pounds.
realistically, I cannot exist in the perfect neutral state all the time.
No.
It's just not possible, Like, as I'm sitting here, I'm slowly getting hungrier.
Yeah.
Right? And to say that, oh, you're starving yourself, no, I'm not. This is just naturally how it works. Or, like, if I go to get dinner right now, and you say, oh, you're a glutton. Well,
Yeah, you wanna
okay,
eat
like,
an extra muffin.
I physically cannot exist in the perfect center where I am just neutral all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not starving and I'm not hungry and I'm not satiated.
Yeah.
So, then the question is, okay, how far can I push that boundary before I draw a hard line and I say no further than this, right?
It's hard because it's slow.
Yeah.
You
It's
slowly
very
become
conditional.
You slowly become someone.
Yeah.
So it takes time to see that.
And I think those are where you draw those lines, or like where people draw those lines, that's where the conflict is,
Yeah.
right? Like what you were saying with the lady who had a brother in this, who's going to die if she doesn't fudge the rules a little bit, right? There's a line drawn in the sand right there. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
It's that
A number.
number you were talking
Say
about.
under it,
Yeah.
you let it happen.
If you're under it, you let it happen. If you're over it, you intervene.
Yeah.
Right? That's the line. And she has a really hard decision, which is, do I try to push the line just a little bit? It's not that much,
Yeah.
just a tiny bit, so that my brother's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like do it one time.
Yeah.
Just one time.
But that's the thing. If you start compromising like that, you're going to keep going. You're going to keep going and going and going until you're evil.
until
Like
you lose the
how
war.
much can you compromise? You know,
Yeah.
if you're gonna change where you've drawn that line, you
But
better think it through really carefully.
but
You
I
know.
think about the main character. He was a genius, but he was also a very odd and emotionally peculiar character.
Hmm.
Where like for him, he was able to make that hard decision. And it wasn't because he was evil or good, it was just that he envisioned the greater good.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are gonna hate him. Like his direct environment, the people that were working with him, will hate him because it was so easy for him to make this hard decision. It was so easy for him to see the greater good in letting people die, letting cities be burned.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people that work
Yeah.
around him will hate him. But when the story ends and this character like meet him again, like especially when the story progresses, like this hero, he dies miserably. But after the war, he's struggling because he's like he truly believes he was evil. He starts thinking about all this death that he caused. So he's struggling. He keeps asking people, "Do you think I'm evil?" He tells the story, and he's like, "Do you
Oh,
think I'm
man.
evil? Do you think I'm evil?"
Yeah, looking for validation or redemption.
Not
or
even
something like that.
validation and redemption, because the people to whom he explained are like, "I don't know," and that's what he doesn't want to hear that.
But I think he wants an answer.
Yes, he
right?
wanna be told
Yes,
that he's evil.
Looking for the validation.
Yes,
right?
he wants to be. He's okay with being
Oh.
told that he's evil or good.
Oh,
But everybody-
so even evil's okay.
Yes,
Right?
but everybody he tells the story to are like, "I don't know. I can't judge."
I need to go to the restroom.
Me
real
too.
quick. Put it on
Oh,
pause.
pause. Okay, we back from the break.
We're back.
Yeah, so I was finishing saying that, you know, he keeps asking people like, "Am I good? Am I bad?"
Yeah.
And people listen to the whole story and they are like, "We can tell." And at the end of the story, one of his good friend,
yeah.
she comes to him and he asks her like, "Am I good or am I bad?" And you think she's gonna say you, and she tells him, "You are good. I walked into a city that would have not existed if you had not made these decisions. And I talked to I bought apple from a merchant that would have been dead if you had not made this decision. Like, now that the war is over, and I know what we have escaped, like, Hitler lost because you made these decisions, and I can see the greater good now. I'm living in the greater good. You were right." And he cries and like he kind of meets this. I mean, he'll end up dying of suicide, but for other reasons. But it's like, it's like,
That is heavy stuff.
yes,
My story is not tackling like city destroying events that are the result of a main character.
yes,
Right? Like my main characters will never have to deal with like the burden of I don't know, changing the direction of an entire nation, you
Yeah.
know, or like I don't think any of them are gonna commit suicide.
yeah.
Some-
No, that's
they might
undeniable.
die, but I don't know about suicide. But
Yeah,
that's heavy, man.
it is. But it really gave me helped me think about Gohan.
Yeah.
Because you see Gohan and Luby going, and I feel like Gohan would be right. But not entirely. She will be like 52% right, when Luby will be 48%.
That's good. Yeah. No, that's good though, right? You want it to be imbalanced.
Yes.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, like, at least the man I am right now, like, look at these two characters, and I will put them in situation where they have to choose. And, like, these characters are pretty much alive in my head.
Yeah.
Like, I know how
Rent
they...
free.
Yes.
They live here.
I know how they are gonna act.
Yeah.
And it's gonna end up on different, like, issues. And when I watched that movie, I was like, this movie makes me feel like Gohan is gonna be right at the end. Because once you're gonna live in the greater good, you're gonna be like, oh, so...
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Luby's actions are short-termed in a sense, where like it has a but I don't know. You tell me. Like it has the potential to lead to something that will be good for
Yeah,
again.
Luby is which one again? The rational or
Yes, no, the emotional one.
emotional one. Okay.
Gohan is the law and order.
Okay, what's the question again?
So like
You
I
feel
feel
like-
I feel like Gohan is gonna be right on the long term, and Luby on the short term. So therefore,
Oh.
Gohan might be the right one.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because Gohan is thinking strategically, right?
Yes.
He's a law person, and then Luby is thinking only in the short term.
Yeah.
And to beneficially impact people in your immediate surroundings, you need to think short term. You need to think tactical, right? Like, really, what you're doing is assessing your available resources and how you can put those towards something coming out to a good outcome, right?
Yeah.
And those resources can be people, they can be things, you know.
Yeah.
It's really broad. And then if you're thinking strategically, what you have to do is think about the sacrifice of immediate resources
Yeah.
to bring about more of them later.
Yeah. But you know, I was
Right.
thinking of a line that because I feel like when they meet, Gohan is gonna explain that to Luby. And I feel like Luby would tell her that leave tomorrow's problem to the people that live tomorrow.
Ooh.
Like you are trying to solve something that you don't necessarily know. You don't know what the world is gonna be in a
Yeah,
100
or like
years.
how do you know that's how it's gonna turn out?
Yeah, and she will
know?
end up by telling Gohan like, play your part.
Whew.
Like, don't try to play someone's part. Like this person is not born, and they're gonna be born, and they're gonna continue.
Wow.
But Gohan is gonna be like,
Yeah.
you are reckless. Yeah, like you will leave no legacy.
Yeah, and I think the underlying question there is what is the balance,
Yes.
right? What is the right answer? What does living in the middle of that look like? It's a
Yeah.
question. It is a fundamental question of good and evil.
Yes.
You know, and how to live a life that is unquestionably good. Like, what is the standard? Where is the perfect place?
And I've come to a place in my life, especially this year, especially during the pandemic, when before I traveled, I would have an opinion about everything. I'll be the one. I'm like, this is my take on this. This is what I think we should do here. This is what this. This is what that. And I have come to a place where I'm like, I shouldn't be the one to solve every problem.
Yeah.
I should play my part.
Yeah.
Like control what I can control, and let someone control what I cannot control. Someone else can control
Yeah.
the other things I cannot control.
That's why I don't get into politics too much.
Yeah,
right?
like you can get in politics, but you have to know the extent to which you can involve yourself.
Yeah, or like, I'm not over here with the agenda of becoming a politician
Yeah,
and changing Texas state legislature and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to have the power on at home and eat food and do work and call it a day, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and I've seen people, and that's why like you see me talking about some issues
yeah.
and not talking about other issues. Not because I think the issues I talk about are the most worthy or like the most, if they are more important than the issues I'm not talking about. But it's because I'm like, I've decided intentionally that this is my part to play. That this will be my part to play in this
Yeah.
world. This will be what I will give to this world. And I'll give it
Yeah.
and I'll go.
And like, really what you're doing with your story is speaking a message. Like,
Yeah.
What do I know as a human being on this earth having lived 20 years,
Yeah.
right? For me, it's 21. For you, it's
23.
23. But That's all you're really doing fundamentally, is just saying to everyone else on the world, hey, I don't know if this is dumb, but this is kind of what I think I've figured out so far.
Yeah.
Or,
Like, this is my part.
yeah.
This is what I have to provide.
And like I think that we're at a place where we recognize that the things that we have to say may not be correct.
Oh, yes.
You know, or like something to live by.
I should not be
But-
asked about every problem in this world.
But at least we're self-aware.
Yeah.
You know, that like our self-righteousness isn't necessarily the standard, right?
Yeah.
Or like I think you and I have an idea. We can get a sense of what is the standard, the good kind of center point between two extremes,
Mhm.
right? We have an idea of that because we know what the extremes are,
Yeah.
right? Like we know what gluttony looks like. We know what starving yourself looks like.
Yeah.
And so that gives us kind of a bracket in the middle where we know we kind of need to be.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about.
But where exactly that point is and where the lines are drawn, like mathematically, lawfully, this is the cutoff point.
Yeah. You know,
I think that's what's up for debate.
when thinking about it, I was like, I'm going to say, I'm not going to give an opinion, but talk about something that has been recent, the debate about abortion. And I was thinking, essentially, you know that this country, especially from the last election, when you look at the popular vote, the number, you know this country is split into two.
Yeah.
It's split into two, and one half will not be able to move without the other.
Yeah.
There is just no way. One half cannot make a decision and leave the other half because the two are so equal now
Yeah.
that there is no way this country can move forward without meeting in the middle. Like, and that's something like when I was talking about being right or wrong, I do not know the answer to that debate.
Yeah.
I can give my take, but I can defend it, I can lean on one side or something like that. But I know that in order for this to be solved, it's not depending on me being right.
Yeah.
It's depending on the two half going on one way.
I have a couple thoughts on the topic of abortion, which is just that, I mean, the bottom line is no one wants to experience an abortion.
No one.
Like, no one wants to go through that.
Yeah.
Whether you're pro or not,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a...
It's not a good
it's
experience.
a nuclear option, right?
It's not a
Like,
good experience.
Yeah, it's not...
It's not something people look forward.
Yeah, you don't do it for fun, right?
Yes.
And so I think the question really becomes, what circumstances bring you to a point where you need to have an abortion?
Yeah.
And how common is that in our current culture, and why does it happen?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think if you start to trace back the steps, you come to much easier right and wrong choices to make, right? So
I
like
agree.
If you're at the point where you're deciding should I have an abortion or not, I think that implies that you made a choice a couple decisions earlier that was an easy yes no, like right wrong.
I would say it
Because
depends.
obviously I think there's either number one. So okay, you're either this also brings in the topic of like, okay, is it sexual assault or is it a consenting thing?
Yeah, right? Like,
right?
it cannot be...
Yeah, but so if it's a consenting thing, you lack the foresight to kind of realize that, because like sex brings you, I think, two things. It brings you, number one, just the raw physical pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
but on a deeper level, it brings you that intimacy and closeness with a partner,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you're just doing it for the pleasure side, you don't need that. Like, I think that is kind of inexcusable, because there's nothing really noble about pleasuring yourself, right?
I would...
Like,
I say where you're
if all
right.
you're doing it for is just to bring about joy for yourself, like, I don't know. I don't excuse that, really. Um,
I would say I see where, like, again, it's like, right,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of conditions to this. Like, I haven't gotten to some of the other
yeah.
things, right?
But I would say, like, you are Nicholas Meyer talking from being 21 years old.
Mhm.
Can Nicholas Meyer at 13 years old say that? Can
At
Nicholas,
13?
yes. Can Nicholas Meyer at 16 years old say that? Can Nicholas Meyer, like, is
Is it
this
a
you
question of
come,
can he say it or would he say it?
is like, have you come to the conclusion you're speaking about, or were you born thinking like that?
I think that my original, well, okay. My original view on it was I didn't have any view because I had no conception of sexual intercourse. But, or like, and as a result, by extension, this idea of abortion,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but I think as I have come to understand that further, uh, I think I think even if you explained abortion to a little kid, they would recognize it as fundamentally not a nice experience. Right?
It's definitely not
like
an
this
access
ties
period.
back to my thing where it's like no one wants to have one.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you believe.
And, but,
You just don't want to go through that, you know,
Yeah.
like killing your own
yeah.
kin,
But
you know.
then I would say, like, is this more like, does it sound what you said more like if someone has not reached the place you are now, it's unexcusable? If someone has not come to the
So like
conclusion,
if they
you're,
haven't just not thought it through.
yes,
enough.
the way.
I think the bottom line is if you haven't thought it through enough like that, you shouldn't be having sex in the first place.
But how do you know if, again, like, you can do anything for the right, or like, you can do anything at the end of the day, right? It's, you can take a gun and do something bad with it or something good
Yeah.
with it. It's not a matter
mean-
of like if you can take or no. It's more like, have you reached a point in your life yet where you understand
The
this thing?
nuances of
Yes, or
something.
like where they are at the same place as you. And if not, is this unexcusable to you?
That's a tough one. I think that a lot of it depends on the circumstances of how what the person was kind of well, yeah, you know what? I think that maybe it is still kind of unexcusable because I think in order to engage in something that profound, like the potential creation of new human life, like from a fundamental point of view, if you understand nothing about sex, one of the things you absolutely understand is that this will create children, right? Or like, it's really hard to engage in intercourse and
Yes,
not
yes,
understand that you
okay.
could have a kid as a result of that, right?
Yeah, but it's like, what you say again is right, but it's like, is everybody at a point where they can, as they can,
They can like mentally process.
like, measure the consequences of something? Like me at 16 years old, you can talk me into doing anything because I cannot. Again, you were talking about the grasping of time, understanding like
Death
the
and stuff,
the
yeah.
weight of your consequence.
Mortality, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
mortality,
It's a
or
better
not.
term.
Like me, for example, talking about grief, but I have not experienced any grief, and that's why I cannot write about it.
We're gonna get so much hate mail for
Oh, it's okay.
things we say.
Listen, this is the man we are right now. but like, you know, me being at this point where like I cannot write about grief because I have not experienced like any big grief in my life.
Yes.
Then like, is someone that has experienced grief tell me that it's unexcusable? Or like someone that has, that understand what I don't understand, can this person like then tell me like, this is unexcusable that you have not figured out at this point?
I think there are two things that are happening. So there's the action itself that you undertake at a certain time, and where your understanding of that action should be when you take it. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that if you're engaging in sexual intercourse with someone, your understanding has to be in a long-term point of view, where you're thinking a kid may potentially come from this, and I need to be prepared to handle that. Like, what does a kid need, right? That's where it needs to be. That's the that is the good,
no, I totally
good
agree with
place you need to be in.
Yes.
And if you're not there, I think you are in a state of being wrong. Right?
Yeah. But again, it's like, you know, you live in a world like I've not had intercourse yet, but I've definitely had sexual
Yeah.
experiences in the
Yeah,
past.
no, I mean,
I don't think at any time, like especially the first time, I had any grasp of where this could go. I've heard like I knew about sex. I knew you can do kid with it. I don't think at the time I wasn't the man I'm here. Like right now, like I'm very careful about yes how I do this
Yeah.
thing because I've understood learned so many
and
things.
I mean, wow, we are being very real on the podcast right now. But I've also done some things that I can't take back
Yeah.
and deeply regret in that regard, right? And I think I think I had the right idea at the time that I compromised and did those things. I think I knew what was right and wrong, and I didn't do it anyways, right?
What?
And as a result, yeah, I really deeply regret that.
But I wanna
It's
think.
basically the same thing that
Yeah, but I wanna ask you what
how
made
did
you?
I get to that
Yes,
point,
like
right?
what? Not necessarily in the standpoint of
Yeah.
like accusing you, but like
No.
I think something very rational kind of led you to make those
Well,
decisions.
that's the thing. Like, I condemn the person that did that. I condemn myself for doing that because that was wrong, and there's no way I can justify that as right in my head. You know.
I'm not saying whether
But,
it's right or wrong, but like what's the rational?
What brought me to do that? That's difficult. Well, okay, the things I did could not bring about a child existing, so that's one thing.
It could have led. It could have taken that direction.
A chain of events could have led to that point if I had continued to cross lines.
Yeah.
But my intention was not to. Now, I conceded on one of my lines because you know how we were talking about it being like a spectrum?
Yeah.
And where you actually draw that line is the most crucial thing.
Yeah.
I felt like it's kind of like walking up to the edge of a cliff. Where it's like, okay, I'm standing maybe like 10 feet away from the edge of this cliff. And like, I guess a super strong gust of wind could hit me and throw me off the edge. But I feel pretty safe here.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how close can you get to that cliff? Like, as you get closer to it, you become more and more in danger of falling off of it accidentally.
Yeah.
Until you're right up on the edge. And then eventually jump.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say maybe like 10 feet from the cliff edge. I think that for stupid reasons, and I think not entirely selfish reasons, I was getting as close to that cliff edge as I possibly could.
But you had the understanding.
And to the point where I was like sticking one of my feet off of it, basically.
Yeah.
But I stopped before I jumped.
Yeah. But you.
And I think that what motivated me to get to that point was both kind of immature, vain pursuit of self-satisfaction, but also a pursuit to satisfy someone else that I cared about.
See, I was thinking about it.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's the virtuous aspect of it. But the problem is, I'm not with that person anymore. You know? And there are good reasons for why I'm not with that person anymore. And if I knew what was good for me, I would have thought in the long term, right? This goes back to the long term, short term thing, right? Because I was thinking in that moment, I was thinking almost purely tactically, right? You're thinking in the immediate moment, what does this person want and what do I want? And you're not thinking about in the future, am I even going to be with this person anymore? You know, or like you're trying as hard as you can to suppress that, and you can't. It's wrong, right? You need the balance of being in the present and in the future at the same time. You know, weighing both of those options equally. You can't just think in the immediate present.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the problems with just human beings in general is that we can voluntarily lock ourselves into a certain line of thinking, even though it's irrational and wrong and evil, or it can lead to something evil, right?
Yeah.
So,
And
I think there is still a part of me that is trying to rationalize it. I think if there's something that you're doing and you're trying as hard as you can to rationalize it, that's a red flag that you are moving very close to a dangerous line,
yeah.
right? Or like you are moving too close to an extreme,
Yeah.
and you need to back up.
I have so the thing you said about, how you got to that place and kind of like the reasoning and whatever I've never met someone that have done an abortion, but I'm pretty sure they had the same thoughts or the same reason of why they got to that place.
Ugh.
And I mean, I have I could say my opinion or how I stand on it, but it's like me acting as Luby right now,
Well,
battling between Gohan and Luby.
I think this brings me back to a point though where it's a question of what should you know and when, right? Like,
But I guess the man you are right
I
now,
don't know.
having experience,
Yeah.
like you could go back
You
to
know
the
what?
past and
That's another thing. When I did it, I knew I knew the right answer to that question deep down.
yeah,
And I still compromised on it, and I should have known.
yeah.
Right? So
I've done that
it's
in the
even
past.
more inexcusable because I knew better from the
Oh.
get-go, right?
I've done that in the past.
And like I think also just as a male, I like as a male in a relationship, I think that the buck kind of stops with you, right? Like it in regards to intercourse or any kind of thing related to it, I think it's more I think it's easier for the man to have a final say than the woman to have a final say in regards to those activities. You know? Like it's harder for a woman to force herself onto you than it is for a man to force himself onto a woman.
You know what
Right.
else I think too?
And so I take almost full responsibility for a lot of that.
Yeah, but you know what I think too? It's easier for a man to run away from a pregnancy than it is for a woman.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And that's another thing that's incredibly dangerous about the entire arrangement, is like if the man ends up making a decision that he regrets, it's really easy for him to run away.
Yeah. I have a friend that did that.
Yeah.
If a girl like still had a kid. I don't think her
horrible.
life is the same. But him?
Yeah, and the kid's life is not going to be the same, obviously.
Oh, yes.
Like
It's gonna
every
have
kid should have, their parents.
He's gonna have a hard life. But guess what? Guess what his dad is doing? He's pursuing a career, and he has another girlfriend.
Yikes, man.
He's not my friend anymore. I fucking hate him.
Yeah.
But
Right, how do you sleep at night? You know?
he sleeps at night, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But again, nobody wants an abortion.
Yeah.
But I hate the fact that he was able to run away.
Yeah.
And she wasn't.
And on another note, just if you're doing storytelling, how do you write people like that, you know?
It's hard.
It is hard, you know? And like it's hard because it's hard to understand.
Yeah.
Right? How you get to a point where you do something like that and you're able to run away from it. But then again,
but I've done
maybe it isn't so hard to understand, right? Like if you're in
Maybe
the guy's shoes.
It's human. Like I'm a man. Like I can describe myself as someone that struggles with guilt.
Yeah.
In a sense that I
No,
you know me
me
how
too.
I love winning. I hate losing. But
Yeah.
when I lose, like the chains of event that happens in my brain can destroy me. Like when I do something bad and I sit at that tribunal and like I'm like, Kadmiel, you messed up.
Yeah.
What the thing I tell myself and the thing I'm willing to do to myself because I think I deserve punishment, they were to a point where, like, you know, we were talking about compromising. So I've done that in the past several times.
Yeah.
And I had to, I was living under the guilt of that. But it wasn't like a good guilt. It was a guilt like, I understand what I have to do. I got my lesson, but I'm still punishing myself. I'm still punishing myself for that. I'm still calling myself a piece of shit. And I had to come to a place where, like, I cannot become a better person if I keep doing that.
Yeah.
Although I've understood the lesson, I still sit and judge myself every day and say, look at what you did. And you deserve punishment. You do not deserve to live a happy life. You deserve the consequences. And you should not turn your back on these consequences.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you, immediately after doing what I did, I didn't really know how to move forward. It's like, what the heck do I even deserve to, like, move forward in any capacity that I thought I could move forward in prior to this, right? Do I deserve something good in this regard anymore?
Yeah.
Now that I've totally thrown it away, or at least partially thrown it away, you know? That's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to
understand grace.
to have mercy on yourself. At least for you and I think this idea of being merciful with ourselves is not easy.
To understand that you should get a second chance, despite even if you don't deserve it.
I'm still not so sure I do, but
yeah, it's
a
journey.
That's what Kasha is, right?
Yeah, it's a journey to come to that place. But again, some people, for different reasons that we cannot control, cannot get that second trial.
Yeah.
At a mistake they did because they literally thought like me. And I'm not gonna say where I stand, but I think about him running away, him being able to get that second chance to a life, and her now suffering.
Yeah.
And living that tough life.
It's just not fair.
It's completely unfair that I'm willing to sit with, God right now and be like, hey, listen, bro.
Hey, man, how is he getting away with this, right?
Listen, it's not fair.
Slap him in the face or something.
It's not fair that he's happy.
Yeah.
And she's not when they both made those decisions.
Yeah. You ever wonder if people think about you that way, though?
What?
Like what you just said about that guy. Is there someone who would say that about you?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Perhaps,
He
listen,
doesn't deserve to get away
oh
with
yes,
that, right?
I'm pretty sure
I
I've
think
hurt
about
people.
that sometimes.
I'm pretty sure I've hurt people in the
Yeah.
past, and if they're mad at me, I'm willing to apologize and even do beyond, more than being apologetic, like do something to repair it.
I think I've actually managed to escape hurting a lot of people. Like, generally speaking, I don't think there are a lot of people who would say ill things of me.
Yeah,
But-
you remember in episode 1, I was talking about my high school and me like passing that letter about someone.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
I regret it.
Yeah, your high school situation was a lot more dramatic than mine.
Like it's something like at the time, on the short term, I felt proud about it, that I defended myself, that I was under attack.
Yeah.
So that was self-defense. But as I moved in my life, I have seen my words, at least me talking to people, giving good advice and building them up and destroying them.
Yeah.
Like compared to, I won't say compared to, and it's very egocentric to say what I'm about to say. But I found myself able to speak to people's mind and have them maybe consider my opinion, like kind of being able to talk to people that are different from me.
Yeah.
And things like that, and kind of talk in a way where I could leave something in their heart, or like an opinion,
Yeah.
or like a piece of me in their mind. And at the time, I did not recognize that, but I left the wrong piece. This in these people's heart. I said the thing I said because I recognized the weakness in them. And I put that into evidence for people to laugh at. And it's me now thinking about it. At the time, I was like, I defended myself.
Yeah.
He was attacking me. So I had to defend myself. So I said the things I said to defend myself. It was justified, but now I look at it and I remember the face he was making. I was like, I left a bad piece of me in their heart.
Yeah.
And if they are at a place in their lives where what I said has hurt them, or like has led them to make the wrong decision, I'll be willing to apologize. And even do beyond apology, not just say apologies. Because I see what I've done.
Yeah.
And, it's you growing up, right?
Yeah. I guess so.
And again, like, you could go back in the past and condemn 16 years old, 17-year-old Kadmiel to death. You could stop there. If my life stopped there, I could be cancelled. I'll be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, if you did not give me that second chance or this chance to evolve and kind of understanding that, I will be that same person. Like, if my life just stopped there and you wanted to judge me on this, at this point, you could totally do that. You could go into the past of Nicholas Meyer, like, compromising.
Yeah.
And you could be like, this is it. This is where it stops. And
That's ugly, man.
yeah, right? If you stop there, if you do not move forward, you cannot appreciate how much you've grown. If you stop there, you're like, I'm stuck there. And you still live this moment. Like, some people have gone through things where, like, in their mind, like, they keep moving in life. But they are still in that moment. Their spirit stayed there. And because of that, they go through life, like, keep judging themselves because they have stopped there.
Yeah.
That's where their spirit is.
Tell you something. One thing I'm determined to do is to not repeat the things I did.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that sometimes people who go through something, it leads to a spiral of them doing it over and over and over again.
It does.
Um,
Not because they're evil, but because they're human.
yeah. Or like, I don't know. I don't think I quite understand why yet.
Yeah.
People who make a decision and come to regret it end up making it again.
Because there is a comfort. There is
There's
a
certain
part of
awareness.
it where, like, again, I feel like if you want to get to the root of, like, emotions, everybody wants the same thing. It depends on how we get it.
Yeah.
Everybody want to be happy.
Or like, here's something. I think a lot of times you'll do something bad like that because you can't get the good standard yet, right? Or like you have no promise that you're going to get the good standard. And so you're like, well, I guess I'll compromise and
Yeah.
take this less than good thing that will satisfy me briefly, but then it'll all vanish. And I think that leads to a cycle where, okay, you do something like bad and it satisfies you for a moment, then you reach this enormous low of guilt and shame and maybe like again, the consequences of doing that thing is brought you to a lower place than you were before. And so what are you left with other than, well, I've already I'm already a bad person. I've already done something evil. I might as well just keep going because there's no redemption for me. There's no
Yeah, some
mercy,
people are stuck in that.
right?
Some people are stuck
And so
in
then
that.
you do it again and you're even lower, and you do it again and you're even lower. And you keep going until you've destroyed yourself utterly, right? And I think that's how sin gets you. And I also think that's why Christianity is great, because it offers you a way out of that kind of cycle. But
Yeah.
yeah.
As I know people that have been hurt by other people.
Yeah.
And
Like it's not even their fault.
yeah, but they got stuck there.
Hmm.
Like they are with us, but they got stuck to that moment.
Yeah.
And that has profoundly changed them to the point where they hurt themselves and hurt people
Yeah.
and don't even understand why or how.
Yeah.
Like they have the right intention. They want to be a good person, but because they stuck there, they have not overcame it. They always end up hurting themselves or people. And I don't want these people, like, when I look at these people, that's something I learned when I traveled. I'm like, you are not a bad person.
Yeah, or like your intentions aren't bad.
Yeah.
But you're just like, you're so blind to
Yeah.
where you can go.
Yeah. And like,
You know?
it's something always hard to admit, but I always say, I do think that if the same thing had happened to me, if I had the same life as these people, I'll be closer to them than I am to me right now as a
Yeah.
person.
Or like, who can say, right?
Yeah, right.
You could easily be
Yeah.
in that person's position
Yeah. And
under those circumstances.
yeah. And it's because at the end of the day we're all human. We're all seeking the same thing and we're all hurt by the same things.
Yeah. I think that one thing that's often misunderstood, I think, with I'm not sure if this applies to other faiths, but definitely the Christian faith, is the idea that there has to be a balance between law and mercy. And when I say law, that also means like punishment, right, for breaking it. That's what tough love is, right?
Yeah.
There's a time for punishment and there's a time for mercy, and recognizing when to deliver those things is tricky. I think
it's wisdom.
yeah, exactly. That's wisdom. Or like, there's a passage.
It's not intelligence. It's wisdom.
I love the book of Ecclesiastes almost more than any other book in the Bible, and the reason why is especially for this one particular passage, which says there's a time and place for everything.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah,
I did not know it was in that book.
But it goes on for like, I don't know, maybe like 4 paragraphs saying, like a time to mourn and a time to be merry and like a time to, I guess, like be still and a time to fight, right? It goes through all of these spectrums. That's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, where it's like you've got gluttony and you've got starvation, right? There's a spectrum. it goes through a ton of those.
This man is
But-
a hero.
What it's fundamentally saying is that it's not that these actions themselves are wrong. It's that the context in which these actions take place is what is most crucial, right?
Yeah.
And again, for everything that has been created, it has its time and place.
I agree.
And wisdom is just a matter of knowing when, right?
Yeah.
That you exercise wisdom to know when to conduct an action, and that's what defines good or evil.
Yeah. And I think wisdom is learned,
Yeah.
not born with.
Yo, if you can pray for one thing in your life, pray for wisdom.
Definitely.
Right? That's what I do very regularly, actually. Is I pray to have the wisdom to exercise what little power I have and conduct what actions I can in
That you see
a
that it,
good way.
you see
know?
that it comes from trial and error. Like you
Yeah.
and me are talking about times
Well,
where we
here's the
were
thing.
not wise.
It can come from two places, I think. It can come from mentors and people who have been through those experiences.
Yes.
I think it comes most powerfully through trial and error. But
Yeah, you
it
get
can-
it.
yeah, because it slaps you in the face really hard.
You get it.
But it can also come through mentors and people who can bring you to the place that they were, where they made that error, and say, don't do that,
Yeah.
or do that, you know? May not even be them.
It's
just,
good to listen.
Yeah, like, I think community is crucial because it allows you to inherit this kind of wisdom without having to go through the trauma of experiencing it firsthand.
But
You
you have to
or
come
like
to a place.
garnering it firsthand.
You have
know?
to come to a place where you open your ears, which comes with time.
Yeah.
And again, it's part of wisdom.
I think there may be actually a third kind of wisdom that, at least in a Christian point of view, comes from God. And that is a lot harder to pin down. But I do suspect that it's there, and I can see how it might be there, right?
Yeah.
Like, with...
Okay. Well, no, it's saved, but
Okay.
Well, opening your ears is wisdom, and wisdom comes from humility and admitting that you do not understand everything.
Yeah, you don't know a dang thing, man. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I don't know a dang thing.
We're still learning, guys.
Yeah, what I'm doing right now is relaying to you what I think might be the case.
If you want to cancel us in 10 years, boo, boo.
Yeah.
We are the men we are right now.
Yeah. I don't care if you cancel me. I'm just going to hang around anyway.
Yes.
You can't get rid of me.
Do we want to end on that note? Anything you want to add?
Search for wisdom.
Search for wisdom. Stay humble.
Stay humble.
Bye.
Bye-bye.